Chapter 4 of Book 4 of Topics by Aristotle, translated by Octavius Owen. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Jeffrey Edwards. Chapter 4 of Topics belonging to similitude, relatives, etc. Such things also must be noticed which are similarly affected with respect to each other. Thus the pleasant subsists with reference to pleasure, similarly to the useful with reference to good, for each is effective of the other. If then pleasure is what is good, the pleasant will be what is useful, for it would be clearly effective of good, since pleasure is good. The like also occurs in generations and corruptions, as, if to build is to energize, to have built is to have energized, and if to learn is to remember, to have learned is to have remembered, and if to be dissolved is to be corrupted, to have been dissolved is to have been corrupted, and dissolution is a certain corruption. So also in those which have the power to generate, and to corrupt, and in powers and uses, and in short, according to any kind of likeness, as we have observed in generation and corruption, consideration must be paid both by the subverter and the confirmer, for if what is corruptive dissolves, to be corrupted is to be dissolved, and if what is generative is effective, to be generated is to be made, and generation is making, and the same in powers and uses, since if power is disposition, to be able also is to be disposed, and if the use of a thing is energy, to use is to energize, and to have used is to have energized. If, however, privation be that which is opposed to species, we may confute in two ways. First, if the opposed be in the assigned genus, for either privation simply is in no genus, which is the same, or it is not in the same extreme genus, as if sight is in sense, as the extreme genus, blindness will not be sense. Secondly, if privation is opposed both to genus and to species, but the thing opposed is not in the opposite, neither will the thing assigned be in the assigned. By him therefore who subverts, this must be used, as we have said, but by the constructor only in one way. For if the opposite be in the opposite, the proposition also would be in the proposition. Thus, if blindness be a certain privation of sense, sight also is sense. Again, we must consider negatives inversely, as was observed in the case of accident. Thus, if the pleasant be what is not good is not pleasant, for if it were not so, something not good would be pleasant. Now, it is impossible, if good is the genus of the pleasant, that anything not good should be pleasant, for of what genus is not predicated, neither will any species be. He also who confirms must consider it in like manner, since if what is not good is not pleasant, the pleasant is good, so that the good is the genus of the pleasant. If, however, species be relative, we must see whether genus also is relative. For if species be a relative, genus is also, as in the double and the multiple, for each of these is a relative. If then genus be a relative, it is not requisite that species also should be, for science is of the number of relatives, but grammar is not. Or does what was before asserted appear neither to be true? For virtue is that which is beautiful and which is good, and virtue is a relative, but the good and the beautiful are not relatives, but qualities. Moreover, notice whether species is not referred to the same thing, both per se and according to genus, as if the double is said to be the double of the half, it is necessary also that the multiple should be said to be the multiple of the half. For if not, the multiple will not be the genus of the double. Besides, whether it is not referred to the same thing, both according to genus and according to all the genera of the genus, for if the double and the multiple are with reference to the half, to exceed will also be predicated of the half, and in short, according to all the superior genera, there will be a reference to the half. It is objected that a reference to the same thing is not necessary per se, and according to genus, for science is said to be of that which is the object of science, but habit and disposition are not predicated with reference to the object of science, but to the soul. Again, whether genus and species are predicated in the same manner as to case, as whether pertaining to a certain thing, or predicated of something, or in some other way, for as species, so also is genus predicated, as in the double and the superior genera, for both the double and the multiple are predicated of a certain thing. Likewise in the case of science, for both science itself and its genera, as disposition and habit, are predicated of a certain thing. It is objected that sometimes this is not the case, for the different and the contrary are predicated with reference to a certain thing, but another, being the genus of these, is not predicated with reference to, but from something, for a thing is so predicated another which is different from something else. Moreover, whether what are similarly called relatives according to cases do not similarly reciprocate, as with the double and the multiple, for each of these is said to be of something, both itself and reciprocally, for both the half and the least part are said to be so of something. Likewise with science and opinion, for these are said to be of a certain thing, and similarly reciprocate, and both the object of science and of opinion are predicated with reference to something. If then the reciprocation is not similar in the respect of something, one is evidently not the genus of the other. Again, if genus and species are not predicated with reference to an equal number of things, for each seems predicated similarly and of the same number, as in a gift and giving, for a gift is said to be of someone, or to someone, and giving also of a certain one, and to a certain one. Still, giving is the genus of gift, for a gift is a giving not to be returned. With some, predication with reference to an equal number does not occur, for the double is the double of something, but the excessive and the greater are predicated of and with reference to a certain thing, for everything excessive and that which is greater exceeds in something and is the excess of a certain thing. Wherefore what are mentioned are not the genera of the double, since they are not predicated with reference to an equal number in species, or it is not universally true that species and genus are predicated with reference to an equal number of things. Examine likewise whether the opposite is the genus of the opposite, as, if the multiple is the genus of the double, the submultiple is so of the half, for the opposite must necessarily be the genus of the opposite. If then any one asserts science to be sense, it will be requisite that the object of science should be sensible, which however is not the case, for not every object of science is sensible, as some things intelligible are objects of science. Wherefore the sensible is not the genus of the object of science, but if it be not, neither is sense the genus of science. Nevertheless, since of those which are enunciated with reference to anything, some are necessarily in, or about, those to which they happen to be referred, as disposition, habit, and symmetry, for these can possibly be in nothing else than in those things to which they are referred, but others are not necessarily in those to which they are sometimes referred, yet may be in them, as if the soul is an object of science, since nothing prevents the soul having science of itself, yet it is not necessary, since this very science may possibly be in something else. Others, again, cannot simply be inherent in those to which they happen to be referred, as the contrary can neither be in the contrary, nor science in its object, unless the object of science should be the soul or man. We must observe whether any one places a thing of this kind in a genus, which is not of this kind, as if he declared that memory is the permanency of science, for all permanency is in and about that which is permanent, so that the permanency of science is in science. Memory therefore is in science, since it is the permanency of science, yet this is impossible, for all memory is in the soul. The place here spoken of is common also to accident, for it does not signify whether we say that permanency is the genus of memory, or call it accidental to it, since if in any way whatever memory is the permanency of science, the same reasoning will suit it. Chapter 5. Topics relative to genus continued. Again, if a person has referred habit to energy, or the energy to the habit, as that sense is a motion through the body, for sense is a habit, but motion an energy. Likewise, if he has stated memory to be a habit retentive of opinion, since no memory is a habit, but rather an energy. They also err who arrange habit under consequent power, as that mildness is a command of anger, and that courage and justice are the control of fear and lucre, for the impassive man is said to be courageous and mild, but he is self-controlled who, when he suffers, is not carried away. Perhaps therefore such a power as this is consequent to each, so that if he suffers, he should not be transported by, but command passion, yet this is not the essence of a courageous or a mild man, but not to be affected at all by such things. Sometimes, indeed, they admit as genus that which is in any way consequent, as that pain is the genus of anger, and opinion of faith, for both these we have named follow in a certain way the assigned species, yet neither of them is a genus, for the angry man is pained, pain having been produced in him before, since the anger is not the cause of the pain, but the pain of the anger, so that anger simply is not pain. On this account, neither is faith opinion, since it is possible to have an opinion of, without believing in a thing, and this is impossible if faith is a species of opinion, for it is impossible that a thing should remain the same any longer if it has been altogether changed from species, as neither can the same animal by possibility be sometimes man, but sometimes not. Still, if any one say that he who opines of necessity also believes, opinion and faith will be predicated of an equality, so that neither thus can it be genus, since it is necessary that genus possess a greater extent of predication. Observe, moreover, whether both are naturally adapted to be in any the same thing, for in what the species is, the genus also is, as in what there is whiteness, there is also colour, and in what grammar is present, science also is. If then any one should say that shame is fear, or that anger is pain, species and genus will not happen to be in the same thing, since shame is in the reasoning, but fear in the irascible part of the soul. Pain also, indeed, is in the appetitive part, for pleasure also is in this, but anger in the irascible part, so that what have been assigned are not genera, since they are not naturally adapted to be in the same subject with the species. In like manner also, if friendship be in the appetitive, it could not be a certain will, for all will is in the reasoning part. This place indeed is useful for accident also, for accident and that to which it is accidental are in the same thing, so that unless they should appear in the same thing, they are evidently not accidents. Further, notice whether species partakes of what is said to be genus partially, since genus does not appear to be partially participated, as man is not partially an animal, nor grammar partially a science, likewise also in other things. Observe therefore whether genus is partially partaken of in certain things, as if animal has been said to be that which is sensible or visible, for animal is partially sensible and visible, as to the body, sensible and visible, but not as to the soul, so that the visible and the sensible would not be the genus of animal. Sometimes, indeed, they insensibly transfer the whole to a part, for instance, that animal is animated body, yet the part is by no means predicated of the whole, so that body would not be the genus of animal, since it is a part. Also, see if anything to be blamed or avoided is referred to power, or to the possible, as that a sophist is one able to acquire wealth from apparent wisdom, or that a calumniator is one able to calumniate and make enemies of his friends, or that a thief is one able secretly to steal the property of others. For no one of the above named is said to be such in consequence of being able to act in this way, for both God and a good man are able to perform base actions, yet they are not such in character, since all debased characters are called so on account of their deliberate choice. Besides, all power is of the number of eligible things, for the powers of the bad are eligible, wherefore we say that both God and the good man possess them, for they are able to perform base actions, so that power would not be the genus of anything blamable, otherwise it would happen that something blamable was eligible, since there will be a certain power blamable. Also, notice whether anything which is of itself honourable or eligible is referred to power, or to the possible, or to the effective, for every power and everything possible or efficient is eligible on account of something else, or whether any one of those things which are in two, or in more genera, have been referred to one, since some things cannot be reduced to one genus, as an impostor and a calumniator, as neither is he who deliberately chooses, but is incapable of effecting, nor he who is capable, but does not previously choose, a calumniator or an impostor, but he who has both these, so that we must not place the above named in one genus, but in both genera. Yet, further, vice versa, sometimes they assign genus as the difference, and the difference as genus, e.g., that astonishment is the excess of admiration, and that faith is the vehemence of opinion. For neither excess nor vehemence is genus, but difference, since astonishment seems to be excessive admiration, and faith vehement opinion, so that admiration and opinion are genus, but excess and vehemence are difference. Moreover, if any one should assign excess and vehemence as genera, inanimate things would be susceptible of faith and astonishment. For the vehemence and excess of each thing is present with that of which it is the vehemence and excess. If then astonishment is the excess of admiration, astonishment will be present with admiration, so that admiration will be astonished. In a similar manner also, faith will be present to opinion, if it is the vehemence of opinion, so that opinion will believe. Again, it will occur to him who thus assigns genus, to call vehemence vehement, and excess excessive, for there is a vehement faith. If then faith is vehemence, vehemence would be vehement. Likewise also there is an exceeding astonishment. If then astonishment is excess, excess would be exceeding. Nevertheless, neither of these seems right, as neither is science the object of science, nor motion that which is moved. Sometimes, indeed, an error arises from placing passion in that which suffers, as a genus which happens to as many as declare immortality to be perpetual life. For immortality appears to be a certain passion or symptom of life, and that what we have stated is true may become evident if any one admits that a person from being mortal has become immortal, for no one would say that he takes another life, but that a certain symptom or passion accedes to this life, wherefore life is not the genus of immortality. Again, an error occurs if that of which there is passion they declare to be the genus of the passion, as that wind is air in motion, for wind is rather the motion of air, since the same air remains both when it is moved and when it is stationary, so that, in short, wind is not air, for else there would be wind when the air is not moved, since the same air remains stationary which was wind. The like will also happen in other such things. If then it is necessary in this to grant that wind is air in motion, yet such a thing is not to be admitted in all cases, i.e., of which the proposed genus is not truly predicated, but in those only wherein it is truly predicated. For in some it does not appear truly predicated, as in clay and snow, for they describe snow to be congealed water, but clay, earth, mingled with moisture, yet neither is snow water, nor clay earth, so that neither of the assigned can be genus, for genus must of necessity always be truly predicated of species. In a similar manner, neither is wine putrefied water, as Empedocles called it, quote, the water putrefied in wood, close quote, for simply it, wine, is not water. Chapter 6 of Topics relative to genus, continued. Further, we must notice whether, in short, what is proposed is the genus of nothing, for if so, it will evidently not be that of the thing enunciated, but this must be considered from those which are participant of the assigned genus, not at all differing in species, as for instance, white things, for such do not at all differ in species from each other, yet of every genus the species are different, so that whiteness will not be the genus of anything. Again, whether that which is consequent to all has been declared genus or difference, for many things are consequent to all, as quotes, being, and quote, the one close quote, are of the number of things consequent to all. If then a person has assigned being as genus, it will evidently be the genus of all things, since it is predicated of them, for genus is predicated of nothing else than of species, so that quote, the one close quote, will be a species of quotes, being. Of all then of which genus is predicated, it happens that species is also predicated, since being and the one are simply predicated of all, when it is necessary that species should be predicated to a less extent. If however he has stated that what is consequent to all is difference, it is manifest that difference will be predicated to an equal or greater extent than genus. For if genus is of the number of things consequent to all, it will be predicated to an equal extent, but if genus does not follow all, difference will be predicated to a greater extent than it. Yet more we must observe whether the assigned genus is stated to be in the subject species, as whiteness in snow, so that it will evidently not be genus, for genus is predicated alone of the subject species. Notice moreover whether genus and species are not synonymous, as genus is synonymously predicated of all the species. Besides, it is erroneous, when there being a contrary both to species and to genus, the better of the contraries is referred to the worst genus, for the remainder will happen to be in the remainder, since contraries are in contrary genera, so that the better will be in the worse, and the worse in the better. Yet the genus of the better seems also to be better. Also, if when the same species subsists similarly with regard to both, it is referred to the worse, and not to the better genus, e.g. that the soul is motion, or what is moved, for the same soul appears equally to possess the power of resting and moving, so that if permanency be better, it ought to be referred to this genus. Again, the subverter may argue from the more and less, if genus accepts the more, but species does not, neither itself, nor what is enunciated according to it. For instance, if virtue accepts the more, justice also and the just man do so, for one is said to be more just than another. If then the assigned genus accepts the more, but the species does not, neither itself, nor what is enunciated according to it, the thing assigned cannot be genus. Again, if what seems to be the more, or similarly, is not genus, it is evident that neither is the thing assigned. This place, however, is useful, especially in such things wherein those appear many which are predicated of species, in reference to the question what a thing is, and when there has not been definition, neither can we say what is their genus, as of anger, both pain and the opinion of contempt seem to be predicated in reference to what a thing is, since the angry man is pained and thinks that he is contemned. Indeed, there is the same consideration in species, to any one comparing it with something else, as if the more, or what appears similarly to be in the assigned genus, is not in the genus, the assigned species, it is evident, cannot be in the genus. The subverter then must employ this, as we have said, but to the supporter this place is not useful, if the assigned genus and species accept the more, for there is nothing to prevent, when both accept it, one from becoming the genus of the other, for both the beautiful and the white accept the more, and neither is the genus of the other. Yet the comparison of the genera and of the species with each other is useful, as if this and that are similarly genus, if one of them is genus, the other also is. Likewise, if the less, the more also is, as if power more than virtue is the genus of continence, but virtue is a genus, so likewise power. The same things will be adapted to be said also of species, for if this and that are similarly species of the proposed genus, if one be species, the other also is, and if the less seeming is species, the more is likewise. Moreover, in order to confirm, we must examine whether the genus in those things in which it is assigned is predicated in reference to what a thing is, when the assigned species is not one, but there are many and different species, for it will be evidently genus. But if the assigned species be one, see whether the genus is predicated also of other species in reference to what a thing is, since again it will occur that the same thing is predicated of those which are many and different. Nevertheless, since difference also appears to some to be predicated of species in reference to what a thing is, we must separate genus from difference by employing the above mentioned elements. First indeed, because genus is of wider predication than difference. Next, because genus is more suitable than difference to enunciate, in answer to the question what a thing is. For he who says that man is an animal develops in a greater degree what man is than he who terms him pedestrian, and because the difference always signifies the quality of the genus, but the genus not that of the difference, for whoever terms man pedestrian describes what kind of animal he is, but he who calls him animal does not describe of what quality is the pedestrian. Thus then we must separate the difference from the genus. Since however what is musical, so far as it is musical, appears to be scientific, and music to be a certain science, and if what walks is moved by walking, walking to be a certain motion, we must consider in what genus we desire to construct anything after the manner stated, e.g. if we wish to show that science is faith, we must notice whether he who is scientifically cognizant, so far as he is so, believes, for it will be evident that science is a certain faith, and the same method must be used in other such cases. Once more, since it is difficult to separate what is always consequent to a certain thing, and does not reciprocate, so as to show that it is not genus, if this is consequent to every individual of that, but that not to every individual of this, as quiet to tranquillity, and divisibility to number, but not the contrary, as not everything divisible is number, neither all quiet tranquillity, the disputant must employ this place, as if genus were that which is always consequent, when the other does not reciprocate. But if another proposes this argument, it must not be admitted in all cases. The objection to it is, that nonentity is consequent to everything generated. For what is being generated is not, and does not reciprocate. For not every nonentity is generated. Yet, nevertheless, nonentity is not the genus of what is being generated, for simply nonentity has no species. About genus, then, we must carry on the discussion as we have stated. End of chapter 6 of book 4. Recording in memory of Mitchell Edwards.